Alright, today's discussion, why Nicaragua is the best place to progress your surf journey. So, I've surfed all over the world. I've spent over a year in the Indian Ocean surfing waves in Indonesia and West Australia. I've traveled up to the Pacific Islands. I've surfed in Fiji, the Philippines, and additionally I've surfed most of Central America, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, El Salvador, Mexico, the west coast of the US, the east coast of the US. So I've been all over the map and been able to see a bunch of different kinds of swells, a bunch of different kinds of breaks. And I'll tell you what, there's no place like Nicaragua. What makes Nicaragua so special, number one, is the consistent offshore winds. Because of the lake effect in this country, there are essentially offshore winds for close to 330 days of the year. And this allows waves to form better and for us to get out in the water and surf nearly every day. This combined with consistent swell, if you come to Nicaragua between April through December, you're going to be able to surf over 95% of the days, and that's no joke. The swell is so consistent and the winds always blow offshore. So here in Nicaragua, you can get reps, which in my opinion is the key to progressing your surfing. Now, if you look at a place like Nicaragua and you compare it to Indonesia, these are the two places I've spent the most time in my life surfing, and why I actually prefer Nicaragua for someone in my position who's progressing their surfing is in Indonesia, I'm not gonna lie, in Indonesia you do have better wave quality. Just look at the videos from Indonesia and not a drop of water is out of place in a lot of these waves. However, when you deal with the crowds there, these crowds are full of professional surfers. And for me, that's a great way to push myself, to see where the bar is and where I should be heading. However, from a practical standpoint of getting in the water every day and maximizing your reps, it can be frustrating as some of these lineups are full of 50 to 60 guys, all of them charging super hard. Now, comparing that to a place like Nicaragua, where I can come here and charge heavier waves and essentially get them all to myself. So we have the outer reef here in Popoyo, which can get pretty heavy. And there's a handful of guys in town that go out there. No one here is really that much of a pro surfer. So it allows sort of myself to be that bigger fish in a smaller pond in a way. And this can do a bunch of things. It can, one, help me gain confidence, but most importantly, it allows me to sort of set the line on waves. I can push myself at the rate at which I know I need to. And when we compare that to Indonesia, where guys are taking off super deep, you're actually forced to take off deeper than you feel comfortable and even makeable. So there's so many waves in Indonesia where I was taking off and I knew that I had no chance, but it was gonna be my one chance that whole session to be able to get a wave, so I had to go. So as far as the competitiveness of the lineups, Nicaragua for me is the perfect amount of competitiveness. Obviously there are guys here that absolutely rip and push the bar higher and higher. However, it's a good middle ground. Another benefit of coming to Nicaragua is the cheap cost of living. In Nicaragua, you can find good accommodation near surf breaks for only a couple $100 a month. Compare that to something in the US, where you have to work a full-time job just to make ends meet on rent, and it's obvious that Nicaragua is the better situation. For me, I essentially have to give close to 10 surf lessons a month to be able to pay my rent, and then I make a little bit with the content stuff, and we're cruising from there. Another benefit of surfing in Nicaragua is the time zones. So if you do have online work or are trying to figure out online work, it's so important on the same time zone as whatever your clients are. And so I used to do a fair amount of freelancing, and I would have clients in the US. And it was so important for me to be in Nicaragua to be able to talk with my clients, make calls, make sales, things like this. When we compare that to the Indian Ocean, a place like Indonesia, you're on the other end of the world, so it's much more challenging to be able to run your own small business over there, especially if your clients are in America. So in Nicaragua, you're on the same time schedule as the US, and you can essentially charge US prices for a service that you're providing down in Nicaragua. Additionally, the thing I really enjoy about Nicaragua is the food quality. The food quality here is actually incredible. So I get my meats delivered from the butcher, and I get my fruit delivered from a fruit truck, handpicked every morning. These animals grow up living the best life ever here in the Nicaraguan jungle. They get sunshine, they eat real food, they eat real grass, and they just live a better life. And I really think you can taste that quality and nutrients in the meat itself, and the fruits are grown in such an incredible environment as well, and you can really taste it. Now, when we compare this to a place like Indonesia, where all the high quality meat in Indonesia is essentially transported from Australia, it's actually much more expensive to buy in Indonesia. It's the one thing that's more expensive in Indonesia is high quality meat, because of the transportation costs. And because it's been freighted over from Australia, obviously it's not as high quality. The animal products that I'm eating are all essentially raised within a 15-mile radius of where I live, and the fruits that I'm eating are also grown within a 15-mile radius of where I live. I think that's the key to having healthy food that allows you to grow and live a healthy life. Lastly, I'll say just the overall vibe for me. I really love the vibe in Nicaragua. I found great community here and really settled into a home here. Now, in Indonesia, there is epic community, there's epic people, and I've met some of my best friends in the world over in Indonesia. For me, Indonesia will always be a trip, sort of a 1 to 2 month trip sort of thing, as opposed to I want to set up here and make this my home base. And as I spend more time in Nicaragua, I'm really keen to make this my home base and grow the Pat Moriarty Surf Company here. Another reason why Nicaragua is so good is because it has waves for all levels. We have gentle beach breaks, we have more pitchy beach breaks that barrel, we have gentle reef breaks, we have more intense reef breaks, we have outer reef breaks. So it's literally the whole stretch of waves that you could want. All these two are rights and lefts. So for me, I'm able to practice my rights, practice my lefts, practice steep takeoffs, practice charging heavy waves, practice charging medium waves. It's everything you could possibly want to progress in surfing, I essentially have within a 5-minute walk either way. So those are all the reasons why Nicaragua is the place to be when it comes to progressing your surf learning curve. I would say that where I am right now is truly one of the most special places in the world. So if you guys want to come down and surf with me, just shoot me a message. We'll get you set up in a nice accommodation here. And yeah, thanks for tuning in, guys.